Hey guys, welcome back to week 6 of the Gielinor games. You know I have to say it every time, so I'm gonna get it out of the way. What a week. We're gonna get into everything that happened, what I was thinking. We had a massive jump in the prize pool, up to 44 billion GP, which is absurd. Allows me to put a bigger number in my thumbnail each time, so that's great. If you don't know what this is, click the link in the description and watch the greatest game show in history. Last week, I won a double elimination banning to stay in the game. West Ham and MMORPG are out. I chose the money, so I don't have a sabotage this week, but I have a particular mindset moving into this week that I'll explain. You may remember last episode in the confessionals, I was talking about Victim. I've been keeping my eye on Victim since day one. He gets targeted on day one, wins the banning, and suddenly it's like no one wants to mess with this guy anymore. There's this concept that I was just fully bought into this week that I just entirely made up, but the banning effect, like you win a banning, and then for some reason everyone has short-term memory loss and forgets about you. That's what happened to Victim, and that's what I was hoping would happen to me. This was the first week where I really started to work with solo mission. Like, you know how at the end of episodes, you guys will usually get some kind of hint as to what the challenge will be next week? We never hear that. We don't get that kind of hint. That's only for the viewers. So what we do get, though, is an hour before the challenge, Soup will tell us the things we need to have in our inventory for the challenge we're going to do in an hour. So you get to speculate a bit and try to figure out what you'll be doing. And me and Solo tried to figure it out this week together. What challenge is it going to be? Unfortunately, we didn't guess it right. But another thing is, since I won the banning last week, I got to pick the teams this week. So me and Solo Mission brainstormed the teams this week because we expected it to be a team challenge. We had an amazing strategy if this week was teams of 3. Essentially, if our first or second seed wins, we're completely safe either way because we hold a majority of the voting power on each tribunal. So teams of 3 gave us a massive chance of being safe this week. Teams of 4, we also thought about. We had a great plan. But the one team size me and Solo did not plan for was teams of 2. So all our prep went out the window for this challenge. We didn't get the challenge right. Everything we got wrong. It was teams of 2. And the challenge this week was seeing red. You can only use red clicks, which means object interactions only to do a relay race throughout a huge part of the RuneScape map. Your render distance is turned down, your fog is turned up, no right clicks allowed, you're on a PvP world so you can entangle other people, lots of variables here. And this is something I was super confident in, but there's always a lot of pressure when it comes to these team challenges. I love just relying on myself in a challenge, but when you've got a team, that pressure comes in because you don't want to let your partner down. You know, I could be in danger this week, so I don't want to lose, and there's just a much higher chance you go into a banning when there's teams involved, because there will naturally be less people on the chopping block, which is what happened this week. There was a 4-man tribunal. So these are the teams that I ended up making. I chose Framed for my team because I know I can trust him. More than anything, if we win, I know he's going to vote with me, and that's the most important thing to me. So I know he can click precise. I trust him not to make a mistake. Victim and Solo, I'm putting them on a team because I'm close with them. I can trust that they're going to vote how I want. So that was the plan. I was hoping one of us would win, take this challenge home, because 2 teams are in the tribunal this week, so even if one of us wins, we can have a huge say in who goes into the banning here. Funny enough, the same conclusion that C Engineer comes to in the banning call this week, where you want to put in Bodhi because he's going to put the best opponent against himself. I was telling Solo Mission the same thing a few hours before the challenge started. I want him to be our main target because Bodhi can essentially serve as a Gielinor Games hitman. The problem was that both Solo and I kind of knew that we were on the top of his hit list, so we need to be safe to get the most value out of it. Ideally, Bodhi picks like a farmer and we get a ton of value for voting him in. So the race starts. Framed is running the first leg for us, and I don't have a ton to say about this first leg. I mean, I think Framed did fine. Like, we just didn't want a yellow click. We thought that was the most important thing, but Foe absolutely killed this first part of the race. I mean, he had critical information that everyone else was lacking, and that was a big shortcut with easy objects to click. I think Hootie also knew about this path, but since he yellow clicked, he was too behind to really make use of it. And that's the thing, right? Mistakes are so punishing during this race. That's why I think a lot of people were so afraid to yellow click that they ended up going really slow, because a yellow click sets you back like a minute or two in most spots. So it's very, very punishing to yellow click. And I think a lot of people underestimate how easy it is to make a mistake. If you're gonna be super aggressive on clicks, you need to know that you can cost your team the entire challenge with one simple mistake, because the people that get first are most likely not going to be yellow clicking, right? So Foe finishes the first leg in under 5 minutes, so he gives his partner Sea Engineer massive breathing room. I mean, Foe absolutely beasted this, so Sea Engineer should be chilling here. He has an amazing head start. Mr. Mammal gets to his partner Torvesta like 40 seconds later, so they're still in it. And then Framed comes third, and unfortunately, Framed gets entangled twice while he's in my line of sight. He's the only person to have gotten entangled twice, which immediately costs us 30 seconds. I mean, one entangle holds you for 15. So at this point, we are disgustingly behind. Torvesta is probably 90 seconds ahead of me. Sea Engineer is probably like 3 minutes ahead of me. At the time, I had no idea that Sea Engineer yellow clicked. So I'm like, okay, it's time to go super aggressive. If you're not first or second, you might as well be last. So I lost a bulk of my time at the start here because I, for some reason, could not get a click on the bookcase from all the way back near the fairy ring. It's like my fog was just not allowing it to happen. But other than that, I made very few mistakes during this run. I caught up to Torvesta. I made up so much time during this run, but it just wasn't enough. If you recall, the 30 seconds that we lost to the double entangle on Framed, I was 6 seconds behind Torvesta, and at the time, Framed and I thought we got second place in this challenge because we see no Sea Engineer. I didn't see him throughout my whole run, so I'm like, we must have gotten second, like the guy must have yellow clicked, he must be behind us right now. But no, we got third, which puts us just outside the tribunal, and you can see at the end of this run just how much time I made up. I had by far the fastest time in the second leg. I really almost got us back in it. I was very curious after watching the episode what the theoretical absolute fastest leg 2 run is. This is a run that I actually lost no game ticks on. You have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because in the actual challenge we had fog, we had half render distance, so I did this one with none of that, and I got this time 4 minutes and 10 seconds. So that's tick perfect, no time loss. And obviously this was under zero pressure and stress. I was just able to focus on not losing any time here. Ultimately, that didn't matter because Framed and I didn't win. I'm not safe for the second week in a row, which is a little scary. I have one ally in the tribunal this week, I would say, and that's Sea Engineer, but there's 4 people in there, so that's going to be tough. Luckily for me, the tribunal sends in Bodhi this week. Like I was talking about before, they're just using him as a Gielinor Games hitman. He'll take on the strongest player possible rather than prioritize his safety in the game. You guys know that I was saying for the longest time how keeping solo mission in the game is like having a bulletproof vest, a shield. I did a lot of things to keep him in the game. Well, hear me out. I need to keep solo mission in this game. It's not an alliance, it's a meat shield. Solo mission is on the Gielinor Games most wanted list, and as long as he's in this game, no one's gonna be thinking about me. Well, today, my shield was chosen to go into this banning, and honestly, it was kind of bittersweet. Like, I know it was the plan, and if it wasn't solo in this banning, then it probably would have been me, so the plan did work, but at the same time, I was like, this kind of sucks, because I genuinely started to work with him, which I didn't expect originally, but we started planning, we started scheming, and all that ends if he goes out today, so it was super bittersweet. On the other side of the coin, I'm glad I'm not in this banning, so him having a reputation for being such a phenomenal player does save me from going in this banning, so I'm grateful for that. And it would be hard to take him super deep into the game without knowing when he's going to cut me loose or the other way around, so there is that positive side of it. Like, it's not the worst thing if he goes out this week. I didn't know who to root for. I think ultimately I do want Bodhi to go home here. He's just a very scary threat. And the banning today is multiplier. You have 20 minutes to kill as many NPCs as possible, and their combat levels add up to your final score. You have 3 setups to choose from with different multipliers and gear, and I don't think it's super easy to tell which setup is the best. Like, just looking at it, you're probably thinking, well, if setup C has more than 30% DPS over setup A, it's the clear choice. And that would be true if you're non-stop hitting something, if you're doing damage. DPS only matters if you're doing damage, so a lot of your run is downtime, routing, pathing, running, so that's where something like a flat 30% to your multiplier gives you a much bigger bonus than more DPS from setup C. But then also with DPS, you have to account for variance. You could get unlucky. Like, there's so many different things to think about here. I personally think I would have gone for setup B. I really like it. Setup A is 13% more multiplier over setup B, but I think setup B has like 30% more DPS. So if you make a perfect route where you're in combat for most of your 20-minute time, I'm talking like you need to be in combat for at least 16 minutes, I would say, of that time. It's close. I think setup A or B is the best. I think I would have done setup B if I were in this banning, but I don't know for sure. I honestly think more than anything, the win comes down to your planning and strategy, and I'm glad I wasn't in this banning, because seeing how nervous solo mission was, I could tell that would have been me, going up against this guy who is so confident that he singled you out. Like, this would have been a tough one to win. Bodhi's strategy and execution was just great. Like, you have to give it to him. This was a near flawless plan for thinking of it so quickly. Using the 2 spellbooks, Venging Thralls, his routing, it was really well done. I think he does deserve that credit. I think he could have beaten any opponent in this banning. I think Bodhi just has a natural, like, mental edge by picking you as his opponent here. I'm sure that got in Solo's head. Like, you could tell he was just not in it. No shame losing to Bodhi. Solo puts up a decent fight, but Bodhi takes this one down and sends Solo home this week, which just hard to figure out how I feel about that. But it changes a lot for me, because not only do I not have the ability to work with Solo anymore, but also he was seen as the biggest threat to Bodhi. So naturally, I have no one to hide behind anymore. There's no more shield. My shield is gone. I have to get into tribunals because my chances of going to the banning are probably double now. Either the tribunal sends me in, or the tribunal sends in Bodhi, and he probably picks me. I have to try and win challenges, or there's very real danger if I don't, and the only person I can worry about now is Bodhi. The farmers have slipped to, like, my number 2 threat now. Bodhi also takes the sabotage when he gets the amulet of choice, so yet another thing I have to worry about next week. Hopefully he doesn't use it on me. I'll see you guys in the week 7 review. Thank you for watching.